This is Bill Campbell again, retired doc and retired Army colonel. Today I'm going to be doing a reading from chapter 1 of my Civil War novel, Soldier for the Union. Let me set the stage a little bit. Jonathan is Major Jonathan Hart, a Union Army surgeon who is taking care of patients at a field hospital during the Battle of the Wilderness. The title of the chapter is Blind Man's Bluff because the battle was indeed like a game of blind man's bluff. The wilderness was a tract of land populated with stunted trees and briars and brambles that was so thick that at times the combatants could hardly tell friend from foe. Part 1 of the book opens with this quotation from William Tecumseh Sherman. "War is cruelty. There is no use trying to reform it. The crueler it is, the sooner it will be over." Jonathan has just finished a leg amputation, and now he's turning his attention to controlling the bleeding. Sarah is his nurse. Here is the excerpt. Jonathan focused his attention on controlling the bleeding. He turned to the soldier holding up the ragged stump. "Can you raise it a bit higher?" "Turn a little so I can get more sunlight on the wound. Careful. Blood-covered leg can be slippery as a greased eel." Then to the two men holding the patient down. "Hold tight, boys. This is the delicate part." The patient moaned. Jonathan turned to the soldier nurse holding a cone of cotton gauze over the patient's nose and mouth and said, "All right, Nate, a little more chloroform. I need him as still as possible." They had to titrate the chloroform carefully, enough to sedate and blunt the pain, but not enough to depress respiration. Nate, one of the dozen or so soldier nurses temporarily assigned to the regimental hospital, had grown quite skillful at achieving this delicate balance. "Sarah, I'll need some suture." His nurse handed him a strand of silk thread mounted on a needle locked into the jaws of a pair of physics forceps. Jonathan kept his eyes fixed on one problematic bleeder as Sarah slapped the instrument into his outstretched palm. He grasped the small artery with a tenaculum, slipped the suture needle beneath it, and ligated the vessel securely. Sarah tilted her cheek to her shoulder to wipe off a bead of sweat. She wore a long calico dress with a white apron covering the bodice and hanging to the hem. Flecks of blood and fluids stained the apron from a long day spent treating the wounded. The short sleeves helped make the early May temperature tolerable if a little uncomfortable. The heat by midsummer would make such habiliments a torture. Jonathan tied off all the major bleeders he could find. He needed to be careful with these bleeders. Such wounds could develop delayed secondary hemorrhage, sometimes arterial and severe, days or weeks after otherwise successful surgery. Having lost a soldier to secondary hemorrhage a few months earlier, he knew all too well the despair and helplessness of watching a man bleed out, unable to stop it. And Jonathan well remembered the story of Albert Sidney Johnston, the Confederate general, killed at Shiloh, fell by a minie ball behind the knee. The famous general bled to death in 15 minutes on the battlefield from a severed artery, despite having a tourniquet tucked into his coat pocket. All his staff carried tourniquets, but nobody yet knew how to use the new gadgets. No, he could not be too careful. Soldier for the Union will be released in July of 2026 by Kohler Books. I hope you'll look for it. See you next time.